And a king by the name of Antiochus, comes in and he wants to Hellenize Jerusalem. Meaning, he wants Jerusalem to get rid of all of their religious aspects, get rid of all of their Judaism, their Hebrewness, and create Jewish Greeks. Gentile Greeks out of the people. It's called to Hellenize. Antiochus went so far as removing one high priest, put another high priest in, that high priest got killed, another high priest went in. He got involved within the religion of the Jewish people. He also went in the temple and he had a pig sacrificed. He had a pig sacrificed. Well, if you know anything, even today, about Jewish individuals, they don't eat pigs. Pigs are unclean. There is a family of priests, the Maccabees. The father and his 5 sons started a rebellion, a revolt. So here you have the religious leader, the pastor, you might say today, but for them the priest, with his 5 sons who were priests, they started this revolt and they kicked Antiochus out of the land of Israel and they got some of their own freedoms back. And the sign of the freedom at that point in time in 167 BC was palm branches. They became a nationalistic sign of the religious and political freedom for the Jewish people. Religious and political freedom. So here comes Jesus riding on a donkey. Some of you may remember when a soldier, when a conquering king would come home, he would ride on a chariot and also a stallion. He would have the stallion. One who would come in peace rode on a donkey. An ambassador who was bringing peace came in on a donkey. I find that interesting because the video said, what is it going to be like when Christ comes back the second time? We know in Revelations it talks about him coming on the stallion, the conqueror. This time he comes on the donkey, one in peace. And as he comes into Jerusalem, there's the reality that there's so many people in the crowd. Lazarus, 3-4 months earlier, just raised from the grave. All those who had seen Lazarus risen from the grave were probably there. You have Bartimaeus, one of the 2 individuals that was blind that just a couple months earlier, heard Jesus come through their town and they said, Yahshua, Son of God, have mercy on us. We can't see. And Jesus healed them. Bartimaeus. He's probably in the crowd. Zacchaeus. Shortly before this time, Zacchaeus was the wee little man, and a wee little man was he. He climbed up in the sycamore tree, for the Lord he wanted to see. Some of you know that song, I hope. Zacchaeus, tax collector. He was a chief tax collector, we're told. He was hated by his fellow Jews. He climbs up into the tree, sees Jesus. Jesus says, hey, I want to go to your house for supper. That sounds good, doesn't it, Sue? We'll ask somebody to take us out this afternoon. He just says, hey, Zacchaeus, I'm coming to your house tonight to eat. People say, what? He's a sinner. He's a tax collector. You probably know the story that Zacchaeus' life changes. He vows to give back a certain, over and above 4 times, up to 10 times as much as what he had defrauded other people, to give it back to them. He was willing to give up his life, his finances, just like the owners of the donkey were willing to give up their donkey. You have the throng of people who have been following Jesus. And you got to remember too, at this point, this is the start of the Seder, or the Passover season, the festival of weeks for the Jewish people. So they are coming in, the pilgrims are coming into Jerusalem. And they're coming over Bethany and Bethpage, which is a little higher, and they come up to the Mount of Olives, which is on the east side of Jerusalem. And they're up high, and they look down on Jerusalem, and they look down on the temple, which is covered with gold. And they see the beauty of it all. And this mass of people are going to gather. So I don't think it was a little parade. I think there were thousands upon thousands upon thousands, if not more, were there. And this mass of people were going forward. And when Jesus came to the place where the road goes down to the Mount of Olives, the whole crowd of the disciples began joyfully to praise God in loud voices for all the miracles they had seen. The healing of Bartimaeus, the raising of Lazarus, the 10 leopards. That was just a few months before too. The 10 lepers that come to Jesus and they want to be healed, and He heals them, and 9 of them go off home or go to the temple, and the one comes back and says, Jesus, thank you. And Jesus says, I healed 10 of you. Where's the other 9? Only one of you came back to say thanks? Good chance those leopards, their families, were in the crowd saying, Yahshua, Jesus, you healed our family member of leprosy. And they cried in a loud voice, Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven and glory in the highest. And the religious leaders, the Pharisees in the crowd, said, Teacher, rebuke your disciples. Well, we can't get into all the history of what's going on here, but there were many different individuals who came up on the scene during these years and some years prior who said they're the Messiah. And they tried to lead revolts against Rome. And Rome continually smashed their revolts. And all the messiahs were false messiahs. Yes, the religious leaders didn't like Jesus, but yes, they were also concerned about the Roman Empire, about Pilate coming down hard on just not Jesus, but all the Jewish people. And they say, tell your disciples to be quiet. And Jesus says, if they keep quiet, even the stones will cry out. A quote from Habakkuk 2:44. If they keep, or Habakkuk 2:11, if they keep quiet, even the stones will cry out. Now, parades are to be fun, right? You go up to Tulip Time in May. It's to be a fun, joyous time. You go to the Macy's Day Parade downtown. You go to any homecoming parade. It's fun. What happens at the end of this parade? We're told that as Jesus approaches Jerusalem, He sees the city. He wept over it. Second time in Scriptures that we're told that Jesus wept. First time when Lazarus died. This time when He looks at Jerusalem. He looks at Jerusalem because He knows where the people's hearts are. And He says, if you, even you, had known on this day what truly brings you peace. What brings us peace? Some of you may say, well, the 3 people that just won that $500 or $600 million lottery, the 3 get to divide it. They get, 80, 90 million each between the 3. Man, they must be peaceful people at this time because they have all of this money. But what is it? Like 4 out of 5 people that win the lottery go bankrupt, and there's such a high percentage of divorce, and there's others that have suicide. I mean, there's so much within the families of when you win. We think, man, you got that much money, I got peace. No. What do we think brings peace? Maybe having that newer car where we don't have to worry about it always sort of falling apart, our old car, which has way too many miles on. Maybe we say, that's what's going to give us peace. Maybe we say it's having your house paid off. Some of you may listen to Dave Ramsey. He's big on being out of debt, and the big thing is getting your house paid off. Great idea. But when we sit back and say, then we'll be peaceful when we have that all done. No. What brings peace? As a nation, we've been at war for probably too long. And I'm afraid we're going to be at war for much longer with terrorists, with radicals. But the reality is, even if we win a war, does that actually bring peace? See, the peace that Jesus is talking about here it's a peace that transcends political. It's a peace that transcends financial. It's a peace that transcends our families.